The trails winding through Pine Brook Reserve were serene on most days, serving as a sanctuary for weekend picnics and adventurous spirits. 7-year-old Ava delighted in strolling along these paths with her parents. But on this particular day, she had dashed a bit further ahead than typical, chasing after the flutter of a monarch butterfly that gracefully danced along the slender trail. Her laughter bounced off the towering trees, innocent and oblivious to the stirring presence deeper within the woods. The butterfly lazily floated past a bush before vanishing behind a cluster of ferns. Ava followed closely, ducking beneath a low-hanging branch. And that was the moment everything shifted. From all sides of the tranquil grove, dark silhouettes moved, silent, powerful, deliberate. 14 German shepherds emerged from the underbrush, each stepping into the clearing as if drawn by an unseen signal. Their movements were synchronized, too precise to be mere coincidence, not a single bark or growl. Just calm precision. Ava stood frozen, her heart racing fiercely in her chest, small hands tightly clenched at her sides. She didn't scream, nor did she run. She simply stared. The dogs, all lean and muscular, appeared well-trained with sleek coats and eyes glinting with intelligence. There was a soldier-like quality to the manner in which they formed an immaculate circle around her. Spaced evenly and motionless, it was neither chaotic nor ordinary. It was intentional. Ava slowly turned, scanning their faces. Most observed her quietly, but one stood out, a large male with a streak of silver above his left eye, the only distinguishing mark setting him apart. His eyes weren't merely focused. They were assessing her. In that moment, the atmosphere in the forest shifted. The breeze that had gently swayed the branches ceased. The rustling leaves quieted down, and even the birds, typically filling the air with song, stopped their melodies. A peculiar stillness enveloped the clearing, as if the entire world paused to hold its breath. Ava swallowed hard. Her feet longed to move, to bolt towards the edge of the trail and into her parents' embrace. But her instincts whispered a different message. The dogs were not lunging or showing teeth. They weren't acting like predators. They were waiting for what? Slowly, she raised her arms into the air, an unconscious gesture of peace, a universal sign of surrender that she had neither planned nor been taught. Her palms faced outward, her chin lifted slightly. And still, she uttered not a word. Something shifted. The silver-streaked shepherd standing just a few feet in front of her tilted his head, his ears twitching. Then, without a sound, he sat down, and in a ripple effect, the rest followed, one by one. The remaining 13 dogs mirrored the action. No barking, no hesitation. They all sat, calm and composed, their eyes fixed on the girl who had somehow appeased them without uttering a single word. Ava blinked in disbelief as the atmosphere in the clearing softened. The wind picked up again, rustling leaves and allowing light to seep through the canopy above. The sudden stillness had dissipated, leaving behind a tranquil harmony. The standstill had concluded. But what did it signify? From the ridge just above the grove, a pair of binoculars were slowly lowered. Sergeant Marcus Hale, head trainer of Pine Brook's Elite K-9 Division, stood in stunned disbelief etched across his rugged features. He had been tracking his dog's movements for the last 10 minutes after they had unexpectedly broken formation during a routine exercise and disappeared into the woods. Now, he observed them sit quietly around a young girl, completely off command. That wasn't possible. These dogs only obeyed designated cues, hand signals, keywords, and whistle pitches. There was no reason they should have reacted to an unknown child, let alone coordinated so flawlessly around her. And yet, there they were, calm, obedient, peaceful. Sergeant Hale lifted his radio, his voice low and astonished. "Control. I've located the dogs. They've formed a circle around a child. Yes, a young girl. She's unheard. But you'll want to see this for yourself." He continued watching as Ava began to lower her arms, taking one tentative step toward the silver-streaked shepherd. The dog didn't flinch. Instead, he stood up and stepped toward her, gently brushing his nose against her open palm. The action wasn't merely obedience. It was something deeper, A bond had been established, and whatever had instigated the sudden stillness, Ava had managed to break through it, not with authority, but with presence, not as a trainer, nor a stranger, but as someone they instinctively trusted. The hush that enveloped the forest hadn't entirely lifted, though the trees swayed again, and the birds resumed their distant melodies. There lingered a curious energy in the air, as if the forest was still observing, still waiting. Ava stood in the clearing, her tiny hand gently resting on the head of the silver-marked German shepherd. His amber eyes met hers with an ancient calm, as if he recognized something in her that no one else had ever acknowledged. Around her, the other 13 dogs remained seated in perfect formation, their ears twitching and chests rising and falling in quiet unison. Yet none broke the circle. They hadn't been instructed to sit, nor commanded to stay. Yet here they were, responding not to commands, but to an unseen and unspoken force. From the trees, Sergeant Marcus Hale moved forward cautiously, emerging with his hands slightly raised. "Hey there, sweetheart," he called gently. "Everything okay?" Ava turned to the man, her hand still resting on the dog's head, and nodded without speaking. Hale stepped closer, being careful not to spook the dogs, though he could hardly believe they had permitted anyone else near her. These were no ordinary German shepherds. They were military-trained K9s, part of a pilot program emphasizing group strategy, situational awareness, and coordinated movement. Each dog had undergone intensive training, responding only to designated handlers, and each was fitted with a collar key to unique ultrasonic whistle frequencies only Hale and his team could access. Yet, none of that seemed relevant at that moment. "Did you say anything to them?" he asked gently, kneeling down beside her. Ava looked puzzled. "No," she replied softly. "I just raised my hands." Maximus, the silver-streaked dog Hale now recognized, leaned slightly toward Ava again, his body language protective yet non-threatening. Hale narrowed his eyes, for Maximus had never responded to anyone outside of his direct command group, not even during therapy or canine trust exercises. "What do you mean you raised your hands?" Hale probed. Ava illustrated, lifting her arms as she had before, palms open, slow and calm. The instant she did, the entire circle of dogs straightened slightly, ears perked up, attentive and focused, not aggressive but watchful, as if they were bracing for her next move. Hale froze, pulling a small device from his pocket, a whistle that activated ultrasonic commands for the dogs. He gave a short blast meant to call them to heel. Nothing. No reaction at all. He tried another whistle designed to make them disperse. Again. Nothing. They remained fixed on Ava. "Ava," he said slowly, "did someone teach you how to do that?" "No," she said, her eyes still on Maximus. "It just felt right." Dr. Cassandra Rodas, the program's lead animal behaviorist, arrived moments later after receiving Hale's radio message. She stepped into the clearing with quiet astonishment, her eyes darting between the girl and the obedient pack of elite dogs encircling her. "I've never seen them like this," she whispered. They ignored the dispersal command. Hale murmured. Rodas raised an eyebrow. "Impossible, even during drills. They react within a tenth of a second." But here they sat quietly, responding solely to the unseen rhythm of the girl at the center. Ava turned to Dr. Rodas. "They're listening," she stated as if that explained everything. "Not with ears," Rodas replied, intrigued. "With something else." "Something else?" Rodas gently asked. "Like what?" Ava hesitated before touching her chest. "Like in here." The older woman exchanged a stunned glance with Hale. There were theories in their field, fringe theories describing how dogs might detect human emotions with precision that bordered on telepathy and how their intuitive sense, combined with thousands of years of coevolution, forged connections that humans didn't fully grasp. Yet, no training, psychological tricks, pheromones, or vocal tones could elucidate what they were witnessing. Rodas cautiously walked toward the circle, pausing just outside. "Ava, I want to try something." "Okay, I'm going to give a signal. If they move, let me know." She raised her hand sharply in a precise command. The dogs didn't budge. Then Ava raised her hands slowly and gracefully. Palm up. In an instant, the entire circle of dogs shifted, not out of confusion, but in synchrony. They stood, forming a wider protective perimeter around her. Maximus stepped forward, glancing at Ava for confirmation. Awaiting her cue, Rhodus gasped. She's not giving them orders. She's leading them. Hale nodded slowly. It's not a command. It's a connection. And Ava, without knowing how or why, had found the key. By the time Ava was escorted back to the K-9 training facility on the edge of Pinebrook Reserve, news of what had transpired in the woods had already spread. Handlers, officers, and researchers lined the fences and gathered near the observation platform. No one among them could believe what they were witnessing. 14 German shepherds flowed around Ava like a royal guard, not flanking her as security, but encircling her like a nucleus. Each dog attuned to her every step, breath, and gesture. The ripple initiated in the woods hadn't ceased with the standstill or the silent command. It had strengthened, deepened. Something had altered within them. Dr. Cassandra Rhodus walked alongside Sergeant Marcus Hale, trailing behind the girl and the pack. This isn't temporary, Rhodus murmured, jotting notes in her notepad without looking up. This behavior isn't just momentary submission. They've imprinted. Hale furrowed his brow at her. Yes, she replied, but not like a pup to its mother. This is pack-level integration. She's not merely someone they trust. They've elevated her. Rhodus finally looked up to lead Ava inside the training yard, a broad space typically reserved for tactical drills and obedience training. Ava took a seat on a bench with Maximus beside her, while the other dogs positioned themselves in a semicircle facing her. Alert yet calm, dozens of onlookers watched from behind the glass walls of the observation building, whispering amongst themselves. Rhodus entered the yard cautiously, approaching Ava. Hi, sweetheart, do you mind if we conduct a little test? Ava nodded, gently scratching behind Maximus's ear. Will it scare them? Rhodus gently replied, No, I just want to understand what they feel when they're around you. Ava looked up at her and answered simply, They feel peace. Rhodus blinked in surprise. Peace. Ava nodded, like they don't have to be dogs anymore. They can just be. Rhodus quickly jotted down the phrase in her notebook, struck by its insight. Moments later, the test commenced. Handlers assembled outside the yard with identical ultrasonic whistles, prepared to issue a variety of commands. Sit. Heel. Lie down. Bark. These whistles formed the foundation of the K-9 unit's control system, each dog conditioned to react to specific frequencies. Hale nodded, and the whistles blew in sequence, each tone intended to trigger a precise action. Nothing happened, not a paw moved, not a bark was uttered. The dogs remained still, unmoved by the cues that had defined their training for years. Their eyes locked on Ava. One of the senior handlers cursed under his breath. They're not even acknowledging it. Then, Ava stood. No one instructed her to do so, nor did anyone ask. She simply rose and walked toward the center of the yard. Maximus instantly followed, and the rest rose as well, seamlessly aligning behind her without a hint of hesitation. Rhodus turned to Hale, barely able to restrain her excitement. It's not obedience anymore. It's allegiance. The ripple had traversed through the ranks of the dogs and now extended to the observers. Everyone in that facility, handlers, scientists, officers, understood they were witnessing something not only unprecedented but unexplainable. Ava raised both hands slowly, and the dogs immediately halted. She gently lowered her right hand, and the right half of the formation sat. She mirrored the action with the left, eliciting the same response. Cheers erupted from behind the glass, even as many stood in stunned silence, overwhelmed by the surreal sight of a child commanding without commanding. She hadn't spoken. She hadn't been trained. She simply was. Hale stepped into the yard and approached her, bending down to her level. Ava, how did you achieve all this? She tilted her head in confusion. I didn't do anything. They just know I won't hurt them. Her words were simple, yet the meaning struck with the force of a wave. It wasn't about dominance or force, but trust, something so pure and unfiltered that even these elite, disciplined dogs couldn't resist it. Later that evening, as the facility grew quiet and Ava rested in a guest room with Maximus curled at her feet, Rhodus documented her final report. Today, we bore witness to the breakdown of protocol and the emergence of something deeper than training. The girl doesn't issue commands. She inspires unity. Her mere presence calms instinct and rewires behavior. Final message: when trust replaces command and enhances response, we teach these dogs loyalty, obedience, and structure. But she teaches them connection. The ripple began with a gesture, but now flows through every level of this pack. And I believe it is only just getting started, asterisk asterisk, as night enveloped the scene. The 14 German shepherds lay silently around Ava's room, guarding not their commander, not their trainer, but the one person who had reminded them what it truly meant to feel safe without the need for commands. The ripple would endure, and wherever Ava wandered, the pack would follow,